Hello and welcome to the J Squared Film Podcast. We
are Venom.
Or as you may know us, Justin
and Jeremy. And we just got out of seeing
Venom with Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy and Riz Ahmed. Fuck, I'm forgetting who all's in this movie besides Tom Hardy.
Yeah, that's kind of the spirit of the movie, I would say.
Yeah.
We got Tom Hardy, Michelle Williams, Riz Ahmed, Scott Hayes, Reed Scott. Yeah, it's
Oh, and Woody Harrelson.
Yeah, a little bit. I wish he was in the movie more.
Me too.
Because I think he could have been a character who could have held his own in this film, unlike pretty much everyone there.
For sure.
Neither of us went into this movie really expecting much.
No, like the movie was okay. It wasn't bad. It wasn't good. It was just right in that middle of it's okay.
It doesn't fail as a film necessarily, but it doesn't do anything to really make itself stand out. If you take away Tom Hardy, the film is not good.
No, yeah. Tom Hardy and the whole Tom Hardy and Venom dynamic and those parts, that is what holds this movie up to being okay. If you got some random schmuck to be Eddie Brock and Venom, then this movie would be straight garbage.
Yeah, to be perfectly honest, I don't think I'm pretty sure there was only one other performance in the movie that I liked, and it was not a character that was influential at all. It was the what's his name? The boss, played by who was it? Ron Cephas Jones. I enjoyed his character.
Yeah.
I just like him as an actor. I think he did a great job.
Mm-hmm.
And as I understand it, he was not actually supposed to be in the movie. He was brought in for reshoots. And,
was he?
Yeah, and
Wow.
I'm pretty sure. So I don't really know how they planned on starting this plot that they had going without him there. And
Yeah.
I could be wrong. He could have been there from the beginning, but I only started hearing about him during the reshoots. So
Right.
But yeah, other than that, they were not really any memorable performances, I would say.
No, you've got Riz Ahmed, who plays the typical stereotypical whatever fucking corporate guy that's just like, oh, I have a vision, I must seek my vision, and if my vision's not seeking out, then it's gonna be bad news for the world. And I'm just like, God. And Michelle Williams has like one of the worst character arcs I've ever seen.
Could you even call it one?
I don't know.
You see, all right, so some of the very first things I wrote down while watching this movie, the dynamic between the two of them, between Eddie Brock and, I don't even remember her character, Anne.
And yeah.
At first, I wasn't even sure whether you were supposed to believe the dynamic between the two of them, because it felt so fake and so forced, I felt like.
Yeah.
And then you get, eventually, the more you watch the movie, you realize you are supposed to buy it from Eddie's side, and I think you're supposed to buy it from her side, but I didn't at all. I bought it from Eddie's side. I bought it coming from Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
And that was about it.
Tom Hardy gives the better performance in this movie, and you automatically cling on to him and just hope that he makes this movie good, which he does.
Yeah.
But that doesn't change the fact that the other things in this movie make it also kind of bad.
Yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the plot of this movie, which is not really the high point.
No. Do we want to go over production stuff too?
Yeah. So directed by
Ruben Fleischer, whatever.
One of those two.
Yeah. This guy is also director of hit movies like Zombieland. And there's also Gangster Squad. I saw Gangster Squad when it came out. I kind of liked it, but I don't know. I mean, he certainly did the villain in that movie better than he did in Venom.
I would say that his style from Zombieland kind of shined through a little bit here. It was very much supposed to be kind of disturbing, I think, is kind of one of the things he was going for with this movie.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he mixes the disturbing with very very blatant comedy, and he doesn't try and like make that subtle at all. It's very in your face with the comedy.
Yeah.
And they go well together, surprisingly.
I don't know how. I honestly don't know how, but I literally at a point in this movie I was in tears,
as was
laughing,
I.
just because I don't
even remember what the line was that did it. And that's one of the things about this movie is I enjoyed it. I couldn't tell you a damn thing about it, but I did enjoy it. And
oh man, do you feel like this movie would have gotten more like a better receiving, I guess, if it was rated R?
I think from a certain group of people, I think yes. I think for what it is, I don't think it necessarily needed to be rated R. I think it likely would have helped in some areas.
Yeah.
But I think for what it is, I think it did pretty well with the PG-13 rating. I think it wasn't particularly gory or particularly violent in any sense. But
no, I don't think we saw it. Did we see any blood? I don't think there's any blood in the movie.
I mean, there's some blood when like bones get broken and that sort of thing, and you see it, and those sort of things get healed over very quickly in this movie, which
right.
I mean, it's there's not really anything I would say particularly disturbing to see.
No,
and I think they certainly could have gone a lot further with that R rating.
Yeah,
but I think it worked with the PG-13. I would say personally.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like part of it is that those scenes in which there are moments of brutality, it's not really shown. Like I remember, what was it? It was the scene where the symbiote, the anti-symbiote, whatever it is. I think it was Riot.
Mm-hmm.
Ends up in like an Asian country of some sort.
Malaysia,
that's what it was. Mm-hmm. And starts like slicing through dudes, and the camera cuts away from it, and I'm just like, oof, it would have been.
I did notice it in that scene quite a bit, where it was very violent things happening, very shockingly violent things happening that early in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
But you really didn't see hardly any of it. Like you saw people die, but you didn't even really see what had killed them. It was mainly just like, they got hit with something, they're dead now. And
like there's things sticking out of them now.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other noticeable one would be the Venom eating people, which I mean we don't really get to see any of that.
Yeah, there was one when he first starts to bite off a dude's head. Like the first time he does it,
that was good.
That was good. I felt satisfaction.
I feel like if they had done more along that vein, I think it would have worked better. Mm-hmm. I think you would have seen more of the brutality of the symbiote. Mm-hmm. But yeah, overall, I don't think it hurt it too bad, but I think it would have. I think it would have served it well if it had it.
I also real quick want to talk about some of the marketing of this movie. So when the first teaser trailer came out, it was meme to hell. The whole Tom Hardy freaking out over the symbiote taking over him. There were so many good memes about that. But anyway, then the first official trailer came out, and I was on board because I thought it was going to be a different take on Venom that I'd never seen before. Like it was more, I guess, edgy would be the right word, except I don't want to use that word because I hate edgy Venom.
Edgy Venom.
Because Venom's a fucking goofball. He's a funny dude. Like if you read the comic books, then you see some of the cheesiest lines and like in his first appearances in the Amazing Spider-Man series, as well as even in Lethal Protector. And
he's deranged and violent,
right.
And he doesn't really have a very good moral compass,
right.
But he's not like malicious.
Right. No, yeah. He's doing his thing. And
he's very much, he's not so much, and here's one of my problems with it, was a lot of the marketing has him as an anti-hero, which there are certainly points in the Venom stories where you could call him an anti-hero. Mm-hmm. This movie is not one of those times.
No.
Venom in this movie is not a hero, not a villain, not an anti-hero. He's not so much even a human. He's essentially played in this movie as an animal, where he has this very his mindset is very one track. He has, I'm hungry, I need food, I'm gonna go get food. I don't really think about it all that much. I'm just getting food, that sort of thing. And it's very inhuman, and it's very it doesn't really have any sort of reasoning behind it. Like, it works for the character very well, but it's not like, you can't really call him an anti-hero because he doesn't think about things. He just does.
Yeah, I mean,
it's very like a reptilian mindset, I would say.
I mean, really, the only time in which he starts to articulate and form thoughts is at the end of the movie, which we'll get into. But.
Yeah, which we talk about. I felt that felt a little rushed.
Yeah,
and it didn't really seem warranted. Yeah.
No. I was just like, really, you're gonna go?
And
like,
of course, they had to go that route.
They did, but they could have done it better.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I would say for sure.
So yeah, overall, this movie was just mismarketed, and I feel like if it was just marketed as a goofy movie, people would have watched it and would have liked it like they liked Deadpool.
Yeah, I would say the simplest way to describe this film is it's not a great film, but it's a hell of a lot of fun.
It's so fun.
And if you're willing to just enjoy it for what it is, you can have a really good time with it, which I think both of us really did.
Yeah, I literally...
Much to our surprise.
Yeah, I went into this movie with the lowest of low of expect. I don't know how that's a phrase, but...
Yeah.
I mean, like, I just went in thinking, like, okay, if this movie sucks, then it really is gonna suck. Because, like, if it's bad, it's bad.
Yeah, and I went in, I didn't even want to like this movie necessarily going in. So it's not even so much like a bias of I want this movie to be good, so I'm going to find the good in it. It's more so I was genuinely surprised by how charming it was. Mm-hmm. And of course, as we said, that's all Tom Hardy.
It's all Tom Hardy.
He does both Eddie Brock and he does the voice of Venom. And despite it being him in both roles, those two characters have the best chemistry in the entire movie.
God, they hold this movie up to the heights I never even thought they would reach. It was just so funny. This movie is fucking hilarious.
It really, really is. And from what I've heard, the reason that the chemistry is so good between the two is because apparently Tom Hardy read out his lines as Venom and had an earpiece in while he was filming his scenes where he was talking to him. So he was literally hearing Venom in his head, like Eddie Brock was. So,
that's really cool.
And he was responding in real time to that. And
I love that.
It feels like it because you buy everything that he does. You really believe, yeah, he's losing his shit because there's a voice in his head and he doesn't know what it is. And it's telling him to eat things.
Yeah. God, it's just best characters in the movie, best parts of the movie. Definitely the reason to see the movie.
Yes, absolutely. And I would recommend seeing this movie.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have to see it in theaters.
No.
I don't...
No.
It's...
Catch it on, like...
There are some action scenes in it which were nice in theaters.
I thought they were pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Like, and there were some flaws that I have with them, which I'll get into more as we go through the plot of it. But I feel like you don't have to see it in theaters, but when it comes out, I'd see it.
Yeah,
I think
for sure.
It's definitely worth seeing, which... Again, is not something I wanted to be able to say about this movie. I don't like Sony. I don't trust Sony. I don't think they make the best movies that they could make. Yeah. And I don't like the fact that they have so much control over this franchise that so many people love. And yet, it's enjoyable.
Sony fucks up most of their Spider-Verse movies. This is not really one of them.
Yeah.
I'd have to say.
And like I said, right after we had finished it, this is more true to the character than anything in Amazing Spider-Man.
Honest to God, like all I could think about throughout this movie is like, oh my God, I'm having more fun with this movie than I ever had watching the Amazing movies. I never thought that'd be a thing.
Yeah, and those were movies that they were trying so hard to make campy and fun, and no, it didn't work there. And it, by all means, it should with Peter Parker. And it shouldn't really this way with Venom, but it does.
All right, so without further ado, let's dive into the plot of this movie.
All right, so we open on space.
With a really kind of bad CG effect of a rocket.
I didn't think it was particularly egregious. I thought it wasn't the prettiest thing, but it wasn't horrible.
Yeah, it wasn't horrible. It was just noticeable for me.
And luckily, it wasn't there for very long.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
the ship is coming down. You hear Mission Control trying to communicate with them, and it's just
Like,
coming
what's
straight
happening?
down to the ground.
For some reason, it threw me off because it looked like they were getting shot at.
Yeah,
Like-
and it threw me off a little bit too, just because of the technology that it looked like they had, and you don't really see that sort of technology throughout the rest of the movie.
No.
It's very modern,
Yeah.
and that looked very much like a futuristic spacecraft, which I guess they set up the guy Carlton Drake. They set him up
Right.
as this genius who's. They set him up very much as like an Elon Musk type, where he's like
Yeah.
the one who's the private guy who's going into space and forging that frontier because he knows what he's doing, and he's coming up with all these ideas that other people wouldn't come up with.
Yep.
And I guess you can justify the technology that he has like that, but it threw me off a little bit when I first saw
sure.
it.
And then after that, we got the spacecraft crashing and the effects
Into
on
Malaysia,
that.
yeah, and
Effects on that are pretty good.
I liked the crash. I liked
Yeah.
the explosion. I think the sound design on that part was really good.
Yeah,
That's something I noticed a lot.
That's also something I noticed throughout this movie. I really like the sound design as well as the score. I can't think of Ludwig. I can't remember the. Oh, Ludwig
Göransson.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry if we butchered that, but it was an attempt.
It was certainly an attempt.
Very good score. I liked it.
Yeah, I think it was never intrusive. It never felt out of place.
I mean, there's maybe one song but it was like a pop song that I felt was kind of out of place, but that was really the only thing.
So we get it. The ship crashing into Malaysia. We have the Malaysian authorities going in and trying to figure out what's going on with this. We find out that the people have obviously died because it was a huge explosion.
Yep.
And then you have the people of the Life Foundation, which is Drake's corporation,
Yeah.
who set up the spacecraft. You have them communicating with the people over video, and it's you see people running back towards the spaceship yelling about something. You find out that somebody has survived, and immediately I was okay. So one of the symbiotes is loose. It's on him, and he's gonna kill people. And that's of course exactly what happens.
Yeah, I did like the whole I like the whole nod to J. Jonah Jameson's son, who is also an astronaut. I don't know what his first name is, but they're just like, oh, there's one pilot alive. It's Jameson, and I was like, oh, that's cool.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then after that, then we got shenanigans in the ambulance, and
And he's the symbiote's taken over one of the astronauts.
Yeah.
And he's in the van, and he gets up in the middle of the transport and just like immediately attacks the woman driving. And I mean it looked pretty good.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
And he attacks and kills her. The van flips, and then there's something that moves around inside and breaks out of the front, and you expect it to be the astronaut, and it's the driver.
Yeah, it's the ambulance
So
driver.
that's our first experience with the symbiote just changing hosts, and that's a bit of a plot hole that I have a problem with later on, which we'll get into.
Yeah.
But it's just important to note how easily this symbiote is changing hosts early in this movie, because it happens, I think, 3 or 4 times with this symbiote, and a couple times with Venom later on as well. Yeah. And we'll get into why that's weird later on. But so the woman who is driving, she gets out and she's walking around. She goes into town, and she has the symbiote inside of her, so she's walking around, and she's looking through town, and she finds like a bucket of eels, and that's being sold, and she just picks one up and eats it. And so the dude's like, "Yo, what the hell? You're eating my eel?" And she's like, "No, that's cool. This is mine now." And just like
my eel.
Like slices the dude's head, like his neck, I guess.
And that's the scene in which we were talking about, which it cuts away.
And then we have people behind the symbiote woman getting up and going to attack her.
You can't just take our eels.
And then it kind of just like shoots things out of its back, which another problem I have, I guess, mostly with the Riot symbiote, which is the one that we're following here, but also a little bit with Venom, is just how ill-defined the power set is, which I mean is It's kind of ill-defined with Venom just in general, and with symbiotes just in general,
Yeah.
but especially in this movie, it really doesn't say anything concrete.
I think, yeah, I mean, they don't set it up. I think it's more of like a show don't tell type of thing. Because, I mean, Venom later on in the movie is just like has powers beyond you and me. And it's just like, what? Does he? I've never seen this before. I don't know.
And I'm trying to figure out why, if the other symbiote can do it, why Venom can't. Because they're both just, like, biological blobs that inhabit hosts, and I don't know how one of them has the ability to create things that the other one does not. It just doesn't. It's not well explained. No. That's what I would say about the powers of the symbiotes and the things that they're able to do and why they're able to do it. It's just,
which kind of sucks because this is supposed to be the setup movie for
exactly
for like movies involving symbiotes later on down the road.
And you'd think that if they were going to give some sort of I would have been okay with a little bit more just explaining and like exposition just dumping. I would be okay with a little bit of that just to see how they work, because most of the stuff that we do get from the Life Institute, which is the ones who are studying it, they say all these things about it, but they don't turn out to really seem to be true. And again, we'll get into that when we have the research going on. But so she kills the people, and then we see the symbiote enter the body of an old woman, and then we cut away from that whole thing.
That was weird. It was just like that. Was it Riot? Riot was the symbiote in that situation, and he's just murdering all these people around. He literally takes out everybody in this market, except for this old woman who's like, "Please don't kill me," and then
and then decides to pass into this woman, which
it's like, you're fine, you will take me here.
Yeah, and I really don't understand. It doesn't seem to have any rhyme or reason to why it's changing hosts, because it was doing just as well in the younger woman's body as it was in the older woman's body later on.
Yeah,
I mean, because the younger woman's body was broken from the crash, but it immediately got fixed up. And it was walking very strange. I wrote down, let's see, how do I drive this meat bag? Because it looked very much like, it looked very unnatural the way she was moving, because it was trying to learn how to control the human body.
Right.
But it didn't really change when it went into the old woman, so I don't understand why it would have been so quick to change bodies.
Yeah, I don't know.
Other than just to showcase that it can, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of fixed with the little girl later on, because she walks normally. But,
which again, I don't really understand the reasoning for it.
Yeah, I don't know. But
I don't know. There's a lot of things that are this isn't a great film.
Movie.
This is certainly not a great film. It's just fun.
It's a fun movie, like, honestly. Okay, so
all right, so we get we go to San Francisco, right? That's where most of this takes place. Yep. And we have Eddie Brock.
Yeah, we got Eddie Brock. We got Tom Hardy. God, the best part of this movie. I know we've already said it so many times, but like, we're not gonna stop saying it.
Yeah,
because
he gives such a good performance.
Yeah.
And so we start with him and his I'm not sure if they were supposed to be wife or fiance, because she had a ring.
She had a ring, like it looked like an engagement.
I think later on he said we were about to get married, so I think it was fiance, but it's never really hit on all that hard. So she wakes him up, and he has some sort of meeting that day that he's supposed to be going to.
She's like, wake up. She throws a pillow at him. He's like, all right, wake up, throw a pillow at me.
And she's a lawyer, and she has these cases that she has to go work on. So his meeting, he goes up and he talks to the actor that I'd praised beforehand, Ron Cephas Jones. Yeah. He goes up and talks to him, his boss, and he's talking about just the sort of, he's an investigative journalist.
Yeah.
So we see a newsreel of his kind of stories, and I thought that was cut together very well. I think that flowed very well. And then we have him talking to him, and I can't remember exactly what they talked about. I can't remember why he went and saw him, which again, it's kind of,
I think it was simply just like, hey, we got a lead on this whole story with Carlton Drake. Can we just call him Carlton Flake? Because his whole character is just a flake at this point.
Yeah, it's not It's not great, his
All right.
characterization, and it's very, very clear from the moment you see him that he's not.
Yeah.
He's the villain.
So Eddie Brock, he's like, Eddie Brock, go do your journalism thing with Carlton Flake. We need reports, and this is gonna be big. And he's just like, okay. And he's like,
basically
don't fuck it
just
up.
like a nice Joe Jonah Jameson.
Yeah.
Which I mean,
knock off JJJ.
yeah.
But
And then we have him. We have a little bit more of a scene with him and his fiance, which again I didn't really buy. I thought her performance was very lackluster throughout the film, and I think Tom Hardy did a great job with it as well as he could with what he was working with, and I just didn't buy the relationship at all.
yeah, I just don't know what's happening with Michelle Williams.
Yeah, and I don't think the relationship really matters that much, to be honest.
It doesn't. You could literally cut all that out of the movie, and it doesn't matter.
Because they try and justify it a little bit later on, but it doesn't need to be there.
No.
It's just kind of a needless love story that they're trying to force in, which, I mean, I guess, yeah,
it's like
I see why they're doing it.
Yeah, part of it is because later on. Well, I'm jumping ahead. But let's flow in.
So we have them going home, and she's talking about her case that she's working and how it has something to do with the Life Foundation.
Yeah.
And so she falls asleep, and he is on her laptop, and she gets an email with confidential legal documents about this case,
which is odd. Like, why the hell would you email that to someone?
Yeah, and it's got like the big red confidential written across it, and
and it's also like, oh, I know her password somehow.
I mean, I thought that was weird at first, and I'm like, they're engaged.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily surprised.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so he takes the information there with him when he is going to interview Drake later on, and that's the central conflict of this first part of the movie, where he's going in and he sees in these legal documents the fact that I think it was the 3 people that had died during the crash, and how he was apparently doing a lot of tests on humans that were getting people killed with his Life Foundation company, and trying to, I guess he was doing like human tests with things that should not have been tested on humans. So when he goes in to interview Drake, who
can we talk about how, like, right before this scene we have the whole scene with Flake, and how there's like a bunch of kids on a field trip, and like that's the first really dumb thing in this movie. So
and it was so, he talks like a supervillain.
Yeah, it's so fucking cliche. And even before that, like, you know, he's talking about this shit like, oh, one day we'll live in space, and then this girl is just like, raises her hand to ask a question, and then all the other kids around her are just like, shh, what the fuck, you can't ask questions, you dumbass, what are you doing?
Like, how dare you silence her? What is your question, my child? And
do not silence her.
It's just, he's such a supervillain, and they don't even try and hide it, and not that they necessarily have to, but it just felt so just lazy with it. It was just like, yeah, we know. Yeah, this is our villain. Just accept it. It's cool.
Yeah.
But I remembered the reason for the interview was because his boss wanted, or Drake wanted to hold a press conference, I guess, sort of thing, where he's explaining what went wrong with the crash, and how it wasn't anything bad. It was just that something catastrophic went wrong, and it was a tragedy, that sort of thing. So he was trying to basically clear his name from it, basically. So before they go in and talk to him, he gets that information, and then he brings that up during the interview, because they're supposed to be talking about the crash and that sort of thing, and he starts talking about his pharmaceutical companies and how they're experimenting on people and that sort of thing. And I mean, obviously they get thrown out of there, because of course they do.
Of course they do.
Because, I mean, you don't just walk into a guy's company and be like, hey, so about those people you're killing.
Like, excuse me, security, please.
So they get thrown out of there. Eddie gets fired because he doesn't have a source, because he's not willing to tell the guy that he stole legal documents in order to get this information. And so he just says he's going off a hunch, and he's like, okay, well, I can't do that, so you're fired. And then his fiance also gets fired, because he used her legal documents to get this information.
Yep.
So then she gets fired, then she gets pissed at him and dumps him. So basically we just have the oh, okay, I'm trying to do good here. I'm not going about it in the right way, but I'm trying to do good. Yeah. Oh shit, everything fell apart.
Yeah, I mean, I like elements of that plot. I think
it's very cliche.
Yeah, I think that it is cliche, but I mean, I think that it would have worked much better if it had just focused on his reporting instead of just with this chick. I'm like,
yeah,
why? Just that's my question.
Yeah, it just doesn't work all that well, and the biggest problem with this movie is just everyone in it that's not Tom Hardy, because they don't feel like real people.
No, Michelle Williams is, of course, a caricature.
She feels like a caricature of just like the professional girlfriend who's pissed off because you screwed up, and now she's gonna sit over here and cross her arms and be upset at you.
It's like, I'm dumping you.
Yeah,
here's your engagement ring back.
Yeah, there was that especially. It's just she puts the engagement ring in his pocket and she's like, "Oh, I'm done with this.
I'm done with this."
And then you have the villain who's just a caricature of just this super villain who. How the hell does everyone working with him not see that he's a supervillain?
I know. I don't. I'm like, what? Riz Ahmed is such a good actor. I don't know why the fuck they had to do him like this.
Yeah, I don't know.
But anyway, so
then we cut to 6 months later.
We jump 6 months later, and Eddie Brock is in the shit, man. He's he's living in a shitty ass apartment. He just looks terrible. He's like, I don't know. He's just
having a shitty life.
Yeah, this is the relating part of the movie, which I think kind of works.
I think mainly because it's just Eddie,
right?
And it's just Tom Hardy just living his life, and there's not really anybody for him to interact with but himself, and you enjoy that because it's Tom Hardy.
Literally,
he does a great job.
Like all of the scenes with Venom / Tom Hardy are the best scenes in the movie, and is if you just focused on that, then I think we would have gotten a much better movie overall.
So we go to Drake again, and in these past 6 months, he has 3 more symbiotes that came off of the spaceship after the one that was in Malaysia escaped. So he's got 3 of them. We only ever learn the name of one, which is Venom. And then there was a whitish one and a blue one.
Yeah.
So we have they're running tests. The first one we see is they have it bond with a rabbit, and basically what they're trying to figure out is they're trying to see how it bonds and what the criteria are for it to engage, to basically fuse with another organism, because their whole idea is they want to, because these things came from space, they want to I guess fuse humans with them so that humans are able to live off of Earth, because they are talking about how the humans are destroying the planet and soon they won't be able to live there, so we need to be able to live elsewhere, so we need to be able to live in space. So
we'll live in space.
If they can live on Earth, if they're with a human, then we can probably live off of Earth if we're with one of them. It's kind of dumb.
Yeah.
But I mean, I get
the motivations. I get it, but like it doesn't work. Okay. It doesn't work because of the whole way that Riz Ahmed is portraying this character in like a very stereotypical villainous
everything
fashion.
He does.
It's like he's ripped straight out of a fucking Disney movie.
The closest character that I could compare him to is in Ant-Man, the guy who is messing with the shrink ray technology, and he shrinks the sheep, and he's like, "Oh look, it exploded. That's cute."
Dear God, you're right.
It's just how does anyone working with this person not see how evil they are and like report them or not work for them anymore? Because we see later on that there's somebody there who is a normal person, and she does the same thing. She does that thing eventually, but why not before that? Obviously, he's fucking crazy.
Yeah, he. God, I don't get it.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to watch, just to try and wrap your mind around the fact that they expect you to believe that.
Yeah, it's hard to watch. This movie as a whole, like Riz Ahmed, again, he's a good actor, but like this whole way that he's portraying this villain and just the way he's written, this villain in general really bogs down the movie, and it makes it. it's just like when the movie's focusing on him, you're just like, can we get back to Tom Hardy? Can we get back to Eddie Brock and the whole Venom thing? Because that's what I like seeing.
Mm-hmm. So we find out that it has to be some sort of genetic match, which I don't really think makes a whole lot of sense because
I didn't get that either.
It's an alien and it's not the same genes to begin with,
right? Like,
and yet there has to be some sort. They compare it to an organ transplant, which you have to have a close genetic match in order to have that work, so that the body will accept it. But that makes sense when you're transplanting organs between people or a person and an animal that they're closely related to on Earth, because they have the same basic DNA structure. But why do we believe that the symbiotes would? They are not at all anything like life on Earth.
Yeah.
They are completely different in form and function, and I don't know why we're supposed to believe that there should be some sort of
I think
DNA match between the two.
I think it's explained later on in the film as to, I mean, Venom himself explains it in a different way, which is like, you know, he's like, oh, on my planet, I was a loser, and then he's like, and you are also a loser, and it's just kind of like, I guess, a mental thing.
Yeah, it's a lot of like the wand chooses the wizard sort of thing.
Yeah.
Where like the symbiote kind of has to choose to bond with the thing.
Yeah.
And if not, it won't allow itself to be assimilated, kind of thing, I guess.
It either does that or it just straight up kills the potential host, and it's just like, I don't like this
again,
one.
it's very much unexplained and just kind of hand waved.
Bring in the next volunteer.
Yeah, exactly. and we have a lot of that where they're testing. After the rabbit, they move on to human trials, and we see somebody who he just gets he gets the symbiote absorbed into him after the most just bullshit speech from this villain.
He's literally like Isaac.
Yeah, because the subject's name is Isaac, so he's like, oh yes, Isaac is a biblical name. I always admired the character of Isaac and the sacrifice that he makes being sacrificed. I was like, what the fuck do you mean?
Dumb. It's so fucking stupid.
I just there's and of somehow this guy is going along with it, and he's like, yeah, that's cool. And then they let the symbiote out, and it just starts crawling towards him. Side note, symbiotes look great.
Oh yeah, the symbiote. I like when
I love the way they move. Yeah. I love the way that I think they look really good.
Look better than Spider-Man 3?
Fair enough. Yeah, I just enjoy. I think they had a very just pleasing look to them. I think I enjoyed the way. I just enjoyed watching them outside of the hosts.
They look like little animals.
Yeah, they really do. And I think that's important to show that it is an organism on its own, because a lot of times when you see Venom portrayed off of a host, it's too non-biological. It looks like it's just like slime. But this one looked like it was very much alive, and I liked the way they did that.
It did look like every single component of this symbiote, like blob, is moving. Like they're it's like it's weird. It looks like it has different body parts, like more attachments, I guess. I don't know. It was cool.
But I liked the way they did that. So it climbs up the dude and it enters into him.
Yeah, we get like this horror movie scene where that's another thing. Like the symbiote's like getting into the bodies. It reminded me a lot of like possession horror movies, and I feel like that's kind of the tone that they were going for. And then in those moments, at least. And
then in other moments, they go the complete opposite direction.
Yeah, they go a completely goofy ass.
It's just so inconsistent throughout. And again, it all goes back to just not explaining it correctly how it works, because one of the things they get into here after that is, they're very particular about their hosts and they can't just bond with anything. But then you go back to the beginning and you see this one symbiote immediately bond with one of the only four astronauts on that thing, and it happens to be able to bond perfectly molecularly with one of those. Then it goes into an ambulance, and it just so happens to be a perfect match for the one person driving it. And then it just randomly kills a bunch of people. The one person who just randomly happens to be left standing, I can merge with that one. Yeah. And it just passes on like it's nothing. And then you have later on when Tom Hardy comes in and gets the Venom symbiote, it just bonds to him immediately, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's cool, and it was already bonded to somebody else, and
Right.
it's so weird the way that it doesn't make sense to say that they're so picky with their because we never see it fail except in the tests that they have.
Yeah. That's the only time it fails, and
Yeah.
and the only reason that they don't fail in the other times outside of the tests, outside of the Life Corporation or whatever it is for the sake of the plot, is
Yeah.
to literally move the plot forward, which is the symbiote riot.
I feel like they needed some sort of way to justify that the people that had the symbiotes attached to them, it couldn't just be anybody. I think they needed some sort of way to justify that, well, we can't all just merge with symbiotes and that sort of thing. They only merge with these specific sorts of people,
Yeah.
but it just doesn't make sense from a logical standpoint, which
Yeah,
it takes away a little bit from the believability of it, I would say.
I agree.
So then we move on to after the human trial.
Yeah.
We move on to
We got more
what's
of
her
the-
name?
Oh,
Doris
Doris
Skirth,
Skirth. Yep,
who
yep.
is one of the lead researchers at the Life Institute, and
like the only
the only
kind of
sane
normal
person, I guess,
Yeah.
because everyone else just sees this guy get completely just mutilated by the symbiote and then die, and then she's the only one who gives a shit when he's like, okay, next volunteer.
Yeah, she's just like,
So-
maybe we should move on to human trials. And like, I mean, shit, it's not working with the rabbits. What makes you think that it'll work with the? I don't know.
Yeah, so then she goes out and she finds Tom Hardy because she knows apparently that he was the one who was trying to fight again. I don't know why. It's never really explained why she goes to Tom Hardy.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess it comes out as like, he was the only reporter like willing enough to like go up against this dude, this figure,
Yeah.
this head of this corporation.
But at the same time, like, he never really gave any sort of indication that he would be somebody who would be able to do anything about this.
Right.
So it's weird that after 6 months, she decides immediately, okay, I need to go find Eddie Brock.
Yeah, it is weird.
Yeah, it felt again very much just like this needs to happen for the plot, so let's have this happen. So they break back into the Life Science Institute. This
Yeah.
This happens after after they find out that the homeless woman that he had interacted with before,
Right.
she ended up being one
Becoming-
of the people that was
she ended
taken
up- yeah.
to be a part of
Wait,
this.
was she taken or did she
I
volunteer?
guess she volunteered. The way they describe it is the people are being brought in and signing contracts that they don't understand, and
Oh,
basically
yeah.
just signing their lives away.
Like, hey, we'll pay you money if you do this.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
we won't pay you because you'll die.
So I guess we basically just end up. The next important thing is he ends up calling her back up, and he's like, "Oh yeah, let's go ahead and do this." So they end up going into the research center, and she breaks him in, and then we go through and we get to a door where she tells him to go in and not touch anything.
Yeah.
Which, of course, because she said he not to touch anything, he had to touch everything.
Yeah. I took that as like him wanting to get his friend out, but he doesn't really act like she's his friend. He's just kind of like, oh okay, and he's just like touching shit, and then all the alarms go off and shit, and then the doors open, and then she jumps out at him. She's attacking him, and then
And this is all happening after the woman that he was in there with, Dora. After she has to like distract a security guard, so he goes in alone, and then all of this is happening before she even joins him back in there.
Right.
So he's going through, he's taking pictures of all these things for evidence, and he finds his homeless friend who was in there, and she immediately like just starts banging on the door, and it's like, it doesn't seem right. It's not like she's acting like just his terrified friend. It's like she's acting very manic and very dangerous, and yet he's like, oh yeah, I immediately need to get you out of here right now. You seem totally normal, and he's trying to mess with the lock on the door, and then he ends up getting a fire extinguisher and just smashing the shit out of it. So she it's a very, I think it was trying to be a jump scare. It's really just like
I think it was an attempt at a jump scare, and it was just like,
didn't really work that well. It was, she just like she stands up very quickly and just like jumps at him and attacks him, and she gets him on the ground and she's attacking him, and then the symbiote during that just kind of moves over to Eddie, which again, of course it does because he's the lead character, but again, why is it able to do so if it's such a selective thing? But so that happens, and then something I noticed very, very strange after this scene is as he's breaking out of this, he has all these people chasing after him and he's doing all of this stuff. He's kicking doors off their hinges and running on walls and all of that and taking bullets and that sort of thing. And he doesn't seem at all fazed by the fact that he's able to do any of this. Do you notice that? Because he just seemed like, oh yeah, this is normal. There was never a moment where I noticed any sort of surprise on Tom Hardy's face during that scene, which took me out of it a little bit.
I did notice that. I think there was maybe one particular part when he kicks, or no, he jumps on top, like sticks himself to a wall, and then like ends up propelling himself off the wall and kicking a dude into the wall, and then I think he looks back like, oh shit, I just did that. But then he just moves on.
Yeah, like other than that, it's like, oh yeah, that's cool.
It's just kind of like, oh shit, I'm doing this, I guess.
Because I'm pretty sure he didn't even notice that the thing fused with him there. He just, the woman, he was fighting the woman who was on top of him, it fuses into him, and then she just like falls over dead.
She just keels over, and he's like, oh shit,
and so, okay? And then the alarms start going off and that sort of thing, and he just starts running. He never even has a moment to realize that he has had a symbiote fuse with him, so you'd think that he would be a little bit more surprised that he's able to kick open a door, or kick a door off its hinges, and then just jump through a giant fence, and run through a tree trunk, and he never seems fazed by any
literally
of it.
Crawl up a tree, escaping the bad dudes, and
I don't know.
So then right after that, we end up back at Eddie Brock's apartment. He's just freaking. I really like this scene.
I very much enjoyed this scene
because I like how they interpreted it as Eddie Brock being like sick and it looks like he's about to throw up at any time.
Yeah, and he's just running through, and he's hungry, and he doesn't know why, and he tries to have a drink, and that's not good, so he ends up spitting that out, and he has some water, and he's freaking out trying to find something to eat, and
then he pulls fucking frozen food out of this fridge.
And he just starts eating frozen food, and he pulls like a half-eaten chicken out of the garbage can and just starts ripping it apart and eating it, and it's just funny as shit. And it's just so manic, and it's just so animated. It looked like something Jim Carrey would do.
Right.
It's just so animated throughout that entire scene. And then he finds himself in the bathroom throwing up, and he gets up and he looks in the mirror, and and then you have the moment of the symbiote calling out to him for the first time, which is like, Eddie, and you get like the first view of like the half transformation.
Yeah, and then Tom Hardy
he loses his shit and slams himself against a wall and passes out in the bathtub.
Yeah. You can tell immediately as soon as Venom makes his way into Tom Hardy, this movie fucking goes bananas.
Exactly, and it's so weird because the first like half hour of the movie is so slow.
It's really slow.
It's really, really slow, and because the runtime is 112 minutes, it's almost 2 hours long, but the first quarter of it feels so much longer than it actually is.
It drags, but as soon as this part of the movie
it immediately starts going. And I think if they'd cut, you see, here's the problem, because they don't have enough exposition that matters in that first half hour.
Yeah.
But they have too much that doesn't. And I think if they had managed to streamline what we needed to know in that first section, and to do it faster and to do it more concisely, even if they didn't add anything to the second part, if they had just made it shorter by cutting some of that, I think it would have been a more solid film.
Yeah, or another way they could have easily fixed it is just have Eddie Brock do some reporting shit. I mean,
that would have been interesting.
They did have like a cut where there's a newsreel cut, which gave me a fucking headache.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I enjoyed the way that was cut together. I thought that was... I personally enjoyed that. I think they cut them together in a way that was dynamic and gave you a lot of different stories, the kind of stories that he would cover.
Yeah.
Which I think gave you a little bit more insight into him, and I enjoyed that scene. You did not so much?
I didn't like the transitions.
Okay.
See, I completely missed what he was talking about while he was reporting because I was so focused on the transitions, and I was like, my God, my eyes hurt.
But yeah, so where were we? We have him passing out in his.
And then he passes out in his bathtub.
his bathtub. So after that, we go back to the Life Institute, and we have Drake realizing that his symbiote's gone.
Yep.
So they're trying to figure out what's going on, and somehow, despite having talked to a security guard that night, we don't have any sort of inkling that they know that what's her face, Dora, was in there that night, despite the fact that she actively talked to somebody there.
Yeah, it's like the guards up at the front gate or whatever literally let her in.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't seem as if she's suspected at all. Later on, they go and get her.
Yeah, later on, she straight up admits, like, yeah, I let Eddie Brock in.
Yeah, but I don't know where exactly, why they didn't suspect her at all there, and that was kind of strange. But then they send people out after Eddie, who wakes up and is trying to sort through what the hell's going on.
Right, and then he
starts
meets,
talking to himself.
Yeah, then we get such a great exchange between the two. Like, when does that start exactly? Because I know that initially it's just a lot of like Venom, just kind of talking randomly, saying random words, and he's just like, there's that one part. Who was he talking to? Was he
the guy across the hall with the guitar?
Yeah, he's because of course, like sound and frequency, high frequencies and shit are.
Yeah,
like
they were very specific. Two different characters. It was Venom very specifically, which was weird. Said 4,000 to 6,000 hertz is lethal. So that was very strange to see him say the exact increment which was harmful to him. And then earlier in the movie, they'd said the exact same thing. I think at some point in the lab that was the problem. And so the sound is the problem with them. And they'd set up earlier that the guy across from Eddie's apartment played guitar very, very loudly, which, I mean, it was a funny bit the first time they did it.
Funny, yeah.
It's fucking bullshit, though. There's no way you're able to play your guitar that loud in an apartment building like that, to the point where it's clear as day in the other apartment under a pillow.
Yeah.
It was funny, but it doesn't make any sense.
I think it's much funnier the second time it happens. But, well, of course, the second time being when...
So yeah,
when
he's
Eddie
got
Brock's
the
just like, "Can you fucking turn your music down?" And then the dude's
he's
just like,
I
"Yeah,
guess,
whatever." Yeah, and then she's just like,
"Turn it down."
Yeah, he half turns into Venom, and he's up in this dude's face, and he's like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah, he's like, "All right, dude, I'll turn it." Yeah, so we got the
I don't. It's weird to see people reacting to Venom because they don't really react to Venom.
How you would.
He would have lost his shit having seen this guy turn into Venom in front of him.
Or at the very least called the what is it called? Like the dudes who rent out the apartments.
It's something.
Yeah.
But he just doesn't really seem to care. He's like terrified, but he's like not going to say a word about it for some reason. It's a lot of the problems in this movie are like, why don't you just say something?
Yeah.
And they're just like, but I can't because plot. And I'm like, but why?
but why?
So after that, he goes back into his apartment and he's trying to talk to Venom, and Venom's talking back to him, and he's.
There's one funny bit. Who's he? He was talking to somebody on the phone. I think it was like, it might have been Skirth, or it might have been his ex fiance or whatever. He's just like, I wasn't talking to you.
It's the dynamic between them and the chemistry between Venom and Eddie Brock, which again, same actor for both.
Yeah,
it's just so flawless, and
really
it happens so quickly, immediately in the first time that you see them interacting with each other.
Yeah,
it's just perfect, and it works so well.
It's awesome how like Tom Hardy was able to create one distinct character, and then separate himself from that.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
So we have he's in the apartment still, and the symbiote tells him, Venom tells him not to open the door.
He's like, don't open the door.
Yeah, and he's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then there's a knock at the door. Yeah. So, of course, he does open the door because he doesn't know what the hell's going on with this voice in his head. And then we get the first action set piece of the movie. Yeah. So we have people come in and they are
action set piece.
Yeah. So we have people who come in and they are people who work for Drake, who work at the Life Science Institute, and they are there to retrieve the symbiote.
Yeah.
So they're in there and they're trying to, I guess, I don't know if they're trying to at this point kill Eddie to get it, or if they're just trying to.
I think they straight up just wanted to like take him in.
Yeah. However they were gonna do it, they just needed to get the symbiote back. So they're trying to like tell him to stand down, and he puts his hands up. Yeah. And so Tom Hardy, he puts his hands up. He's like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm putting my hands up. He's like, I'm surrendering. He's like, you're making us look weak. And he's like, no, I'm not. I'm not. And the people are just watching him talking to himself, and they're only getting the Eddie Brock side of this. Yeah. And they're like, what the hell is going on? He's like, I'll take care of it myself. And he's like, oh no, oh god. And he just starts like fucking destroying these guys. Like nothing. And
it's done so funny because he's just like fuck, like he can't control himself. He's slinging like weights at these dudes, and he's like throwing them.
And there's so many good moments in this fight where you see Tom Hardy just like staring at parts of his own body, like, what the hell am I doing? Yeah, and like, you see, that's how it should have been. I felt like when he was running through trying to escape, and it's great in this scene, but I feel like there should have been more of that in that first scene as well, just because this is where you see him really trying to understand what's going on, and it's funny as shit. And I would have loved to see more of that while he was running away from the guys. So they have all that, and then he ends up jumping out the window to get away, and he's talking to Venom, and Venom gets pissed off and just like attaches himself to a wall, like with Eddie Brock attached, and they're talking to each other there.
He just looks at him in the mirror, he sees Venom, and then he's just like, what the fuck are you? He's like, I'm duh, I don't know. And then he's just,
so he's walking by and he looks in the car window, and he sees,
he calls him a parasite.
He calls him a parasite, and then he sticks himself to a wall and he's all upset. And they're having this conversation, and then we have the people who are regrouping trying to get to him, and they have these drones which apparently explode because for some reason the drones just explode whenever they get close to where they need to be.
Because like if they had killed Eddie, then the fucking symbiote would have just gotten loose again, and they would have been able to catch it.
I don't really understand a lot of the motivation for this, but it was funny. It was great to watch.
It was a nice action.
So we have Eddie who gets on the motorcycle, and he's racing around the city trying to escape these guys. And it's so here's the first thing I will say is this is the first of the three major action sequences, I would say, in the movie. The three big fight scenes, and all three of the big three fight scenes happen in the dark, at night, in darkness. And I think that the darkness is both one of the greatest strengths and the greatest weaknesses of these fight scenes, because while they look pretty good, I didn't notice anything egregious within them, but I think a lot of that is because the darkness kind of hid the uglier parts of the CGI. But at the same time, when you have a character who is just black, who is just this ooze, who is against a black background and a dark environment, it's very hard to keep track of what's going on with it.
Yeah, you can't really see him.
Yeah, a lot of it just kind of gets, again, hand-waved away. And I feel like, it was definitely entertaining to watch. And I think the bigger part of this first action set piece was more so the dialogue between Venom and Eddie Brock. Yeah, I think that was really the focus of this, and it just happened to be happening during a fight scene. That's kind of the way I read this one, and there are so many good moments in this.
Yeah, so like we got we've got just fucking hilarious like facial reactions from Tom Hardy in this scene. Like whenever he's just
because he's just scared shitless. He's like on his motorcycle, weaving through traffic, getting like he's just barely avoiding other cars, cars crashing behind him, drones blowing up all around him, and the symbiote Venom's just doing these just ridiculous things. He's like reaching out and like grabbing cars, pushing them out of the way, grabbing the ground, and just
pushing
like
them together,
swinging them around, pushing cars together, and it's just fucking ridiculous. And you're watching Tom Hardy. You basically are Tom Hardy in this scene, going, "What the fuck is happening?" as you're just being whipped around this city, and it's just so fun. And
it's just fun. And then after all that, then we got.
He ends up diving into the water to get away, and then
first he ends up wiping out on his motorcycle, and then we see Tom Hardy just like, or Ed Brock, we see him like just fucking like his bones are broken, like his leg is all out of shape. He just looks.
But the way he wipes out, he finally gets away from all of these people who are chasing him. And he's like, wow. He's like looking behind him, like, that was great. Look at what I can't believe we did that. Yeah. And then out of nowhere, this car just hits him right in the side, and he just immediately just flies off his motorcycle straight into the air and lands. And this car doesn't stop either.
Yeah, it straight up reminded me of like when in Thor Ragnarok when. Bruce Banner was trying to turn into the Hulk at the very end, and he just fucking falls down.
Exactly, he just splats on the road, and it's so great because he's like, wow, I can't believe we survived all that, and then just random car just immediately hits him from the side. It was so great. So he ends up just broken on the ground there, bones all out of place, sticking out in places, and then then we see Venom fully take over for the first time,
which is what we saw in the trailers.
Yeah, and we see all the bones kind of move back into place, and
that was cool.
Yeah, that was well done. And we see, I guess for the first time on screen, we see the power that the symbiotes have to heal their hosts, and then we have Venom who stands up and is confronting the main dude.
He gives that whole line from the comics, like,
"We are Venom, Spankers, so many snacks."
And it's just like,
and then we have somebody from behind who shoots him, and so he drops the main guy who's chasing him, played by who was that? That was Scott Hayes.
Yeah.
So he drops him, and so he gets away, but then the guy who shot him from behind gets picked up and just gets him munched on, so he just rips this guy's head off.
Which we don't see, but...
No, and it cuts away, but it was good.
It was still satisfying.
It was very satisfying to have that happen. So,
then after that is when he starts swimming off. He like swims off, wherever he swims.
Yeah, so he swims off to, I think it was like an oil rig kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so he sits up there, and then we have this scene where, like where we saw him looking into the mirror or the window and seeing Venom, Venom sort of manifests out of his back and like loops around like a, I guess, kind of eel-like, and it just sits in front of him, and like it manifests like the head of Venom with like tendrils going back into the back of Eddie Brock.
It reminded me of something from like Alice in Wonderland.
It was very strange. Yeah. It was very surreal, and I liked the way it looked.
Yeah, it didn't look bad.
I think it worked very well to have them talking to each other there, because that's the first time you see the two of them having that conversation where you can see both of them, and that's kind of like I guess the best bonding moment between the two of them in the movie. It's not a whole lot. Again, I love the chemistry that the two have together, but there's not really any reason that I think is justified in giving them that sort of relationship that they end up with near the end.
Right.
I guess they kind of... He basically talks about how there's millions of them up on the I guess asteroid that the symbiotes got taken off of. So he's talking about how I can't remember if it's here that he talks about how what is it, the symbiotes were wanting to come down and just like wipe out the planet. I can't remember if he says that here.
It pulls a little bit from the Planet of the Symbiotes miniseries comics, and I think it kind of works. I mean, this movie all in all takes very little inspiration from like Lethal Protector and Planet of the Symbiotes, and I think this movie sets up well enough for Lethal Protector, like some Lethal Protector shenanigans that we can get into like in the sequel or something. But
so we have the the doctor who was the one who helped him, Dora, she gets found out by Drake, and she ends up getting locked. She tells him that it was Eddie Brock, that sort of thing. I think this may have actually happened before this whole thing.
this was before this whole set piece.
It's weird trying to think back through this movie because the plot matters so little in this,
honestly.
and it's so little of the reason why we enjoyed it. And it's really just a vessel for putting Tom Hardy into these situations where he's able to do these things.
We purely enjoyed this movie solely on just Tom Hardy and Venom and most of the action sequences.
Yeah. So we have the Doctor who lets them know that it was, or lets Drake know that it was Eddie Brock. So he locks her in a room with one of the symbiotes, and it kills her. And then we later find out that after it kills her, the symbiote itself dies. Yeah. And apparently one of the other symbiotes had died. The one, I think it died off screen for some reason. I think we see it when he's going through taking pictures. I'm pretty sure the symbiote's dead on the thing there. And I was confused by that. I was like, because they never really mention it.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a symbiote in there, but I wasn't totally sure. So at this
totally
point, it's the blue one that attacks her and dies, and then we are left with the only symbiotes that we know of on Earth being the one in Malaysia and the one that is that is with Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
So obviously that's why Drake is so intent on getting Venom back, because that's the only one that he knows still exists.
Yeah.
So that's when we have that whole chase scene there. So we end up we have that little conversation between the two of them. So it's where they talk about how the comet that they were on has an invasion force, and they're basically trying to find different worlds to inhabit so that they can kind of take over and just consume basically everything that's already there. So after that, we end up I guess the ultimatum that is made there is Venom essentially tells Eddie, this is happening, but if you cooperate, you might get to live.
Yeah.
So, and I guess it kind of worked.
I think it works.
Mm-hmm.
I like how that's how the relationship starts out initially.
I like that that's how it starts out, and I wish that there was more justification to get it where it goes.
Me too.
Because I think that's a good starting point for them to have, but I think it's a good point for them to end where they did, but I think it's important to show the transition between the two, and I don't think we really get enough of that.
Yeah, unfortunately.
So we have Brock, Eddie, who's going back to his old workplace to get the evidence of the pictures that he took to his old boss, who fired him. And so he's going in and he's trying to get up to the top to give them to him.
How the fuck do we get up there? And then
and so the guy who's he goes in first, and the guy's like, no, I can't let you do that, sorry. And he's like, shit, all right. He leaves, and then he's trying to go up, and Venom's just like, oh, you wanted to go up, why didn't you just say so?
Why did you say so?
And then we cut to Venom just like running up the side of this building.
That
it was so good, and I love the way that they have the physicality of Venom.
Yeah, he moves
so well done in this movie.
He moves like an animal.
He really does, and he moves so fluidly, and it feels so real and natural to see him moving on screen, which I really, really love, because it's so easy to make Venom into just this hulking mass of ooze that doesn't really move like it.
Could have totally been a Hulk ripoff.
Exactly, it very much could have been. But the way he moves is so fluid and so animalistic, and it really, really highlights his personality.
Yeah,
I would
for sure.
say. So he ends up climbing all the way to the top, and they're going to go in and leave the phone for the guy there so that they can get the story out. And he goes all the way up to the top, and then an airline goes overhead, and the high-pitched noise from that makes Venom freak out, so he starts falling, and only at halfway down does he finally regain control and grab the side of the building. So Eddie's scared shitless, which is funny.
So then we get up into the office, and we have him dropping off the evidence, his phone and shit. We got a funny bit where he writes down, "Here's your evidence, shithead." That was pretty funny.
And then we have him leaving. The
funniest
and
line
then
in the
Venom
movie.
tells him to jump out the window, and
he's like, "How are we gonna get down?"
Jump out.
and then it just cuts to him.
It cuts to him
pushing an elevator
pushing
button,
and he's like,
and you just hear
Pussy.
It is just so
the way it was
the
edited,
timing of it was so great.
Great comedic timing.
Everything between them is just so fucking funny.
Yeah.
And I love it so much. So we after that we go down and we have the SWAT team that's come there.
Yep.
So we have the second
action
scene, and I'm just now realizing that all this is happening in one night. I hadn't noticed that beforehand.
Yeah, I didn't
all
realize
of
that
this,
either. Shit.
These two fight scenes are both in the exact same night. So we have the SWAT team there, and they're all pointing guns at Eddie, like, chill the fuck out. And he's like, you don't want to do that. You should probably run because this is not going to be good for you. And they're like, no, you're gonna comply. And he's like,
SWAT team dudes are like, masks. And then he's got a good line like, all right, fine, mask. And then Venom takes over. It was really cool.
Yeah. And so we have this one. This is a different different action scene, because this one, it's fully Venom. Mm-hmm. And this one is, I think with what they had to work with, because at the very start of this, they start with some smoke grenades and that sort of thing. So it's very much it's not an easy thing to shoot, and it's not an easy thing to follow necessarily. Right. But I think with what they were given, they had a very it was interesting to watch. I liked the way that it was shot.
It was super intriguing. Like, it was one of the more unique action scenes I've ever seen.
It was even more so. Again, with Venom being so animalistic and just jumping on these guys and just ripping them apart.
It felt like he was a predator.
Yeah, he was like wading through all the smoke, and they're all trying to find him. And they're all panicking and frantic, and he's just very calm and just he's very much like a predator. He's like a tiger, and he's going through and he's just mauling these guys, and there's nothing they can do about it.
Right.
And so we get to the end of the fight, and he's gonna eat this guy's head.
Yeah, and the dude's just like unloading his clip on
and Venom just picks him up, and he's gonna eat the dude's head, because that's just what Venom does. Mm-hmm. And then we have the girlfriend who is back.
Yeah,
because earlier she and her new boyfriend had taken Eddie in for some tests, and they found out that it was worse than they'd thought. So she goes off trying to find him to bring him to the hospital, and it doesn't go super well. She shows up, and she's like, "Oh God, what the hell's happening?
You're a hulking monster."
Yeah, and and so they end up. I guess she wants him to get into the car with her so he can take him to the hospital, and he's like, "No, we really shouldn't do that. It's not a good idea." And Venom's like,
"I like her. Get in."
And so we have him going into the car, and they're driving to the hospital, and they get in there. And earlier we'd set up they had Eddie right after his like manic episode. They have him in an MRI machine, and it makes Venom go crazy because of the noise. Right. So they have him in that same kind of room, but they're not gonna do an MRI. And then there's some sort of confrontation between them, where they're telling Eddie that that Venom, or whatever the parasite is inside of him, is killing him, and Venom had told him otherwise, and he's trying to piece it together with the two sides both telling him different things, and one of them in his head and the other one out in the open.
Yeah.
And so
I want to say this is the part when they were in the car and on their way to the hospital. Not so much from Michelle Williams, but really cool, heartfelt moment from Tom Hardy. Because I think that it is primarily him, and him as the voice of Venom, that kind of, it just did it for me anyway. I thought it was like, oh, that's kind of sweet. But
yeah, because I feel like that's kind of one of the more important bonding moments between the two in the movie. And it's a lot of, I guess, Tom, because Venom can, I guess, see or understand all of Eddie Brock's thoughts, because he's in his head and that sort of thing. And so he knows all of the things that he's feeling. So he's, I guess, he's more of a cold, logical thinker. Yeah. Because he's much more animalistic. He's very reptilian in the way he thinks. And so he's seeing it as, why don't you do this? Because this is what you want to do. And Tom's like, fine, I'll do that.
Yeah.
And so they have those good moments, and then we in the room with the three of them as they're talking about Eddie being in trouble with the symbiote that they don't really know what it is, destroying his insides. So he ends up manifesting Venom and grabbing the doctor.
Yeah.
And so
And
Michelle Williams.
Eddie Brock's just like, no, we can't kill him.
Yeah. So Michelle Williams turns on the MRI machine.
Yep.
And so we get Venom freaking out again, and it jumps off of him and ends up trapped in the MRI room. And so, yeah, I'm not really sure what the whole this whole section of the movie felt a little bit jumbled for me.
Yeah.
It was so Eddie immediately is like, fuck this shit, I'm out.
This is for sure like the rom-com moment of the movie.
So he leaves, and then it looks like Michelle Williams is going to leave with him, and then she doesn't, and she's talking to the doctor, and they're trying to figure out what to do with Venom, and it's like climbing around in the room, and it goes through an air duct, and it's moving around the building, and it takes control of a dog.
Which was kind of funny.
It was kind of fun. And then the dog is like running around trying to figure out what's going on, and then Michelle Williams finds the dog after Tom Hardy gets zapped by the guys who are coming to get him because they think he still has the symbiote. Then they drag him out, and then I guess we're supposed to assume that after the dog finds Michelle Williams, Venom merges with her.
Right.
Which, again, even more so, both with the dog and with the human, why is it able to merge so easily with them?
See, here's the thing. I think they did all that simply because they wanted to put She-Venom in as like a cameo.
Yeah.
Which did not work for me.
No,
I was just
it was kind of dumb.
Yeah, and like the way
It looked okay.
it looked okay, and then the way she's revealed, it's all right. I mean, it's but I just don't like her implementation into this movie. It's just fucking random, and
She really did not need to be there, and
she's literally like She-Venom is in for like 5 seconds.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, and honestly, he could have. I think it would have been honestly even stronger if he had just stayed as the dog, and if the dog had come out there and followed him out into the woods before he's going to get killed, and then the dog is attacking these people with the symbiote. That would be fantastic. That'd be great, so and it would have fit the tone of the movie so much better than it being Michelle Williams. And I don't know. I guess the way we find out that this happens is after this whole thing. Tom Hardy gets taken back to the lab, and he's talking to what's his name again? He's talking to Drake.
Right. Yeah.
So he's talking to him in this room, and he's talking about how he doesn't know where the symbiote is. He doesn't have it anymore.
Oh yeah, we straight up forgot that fucking the little the little girl that was transporting Riot.
So
ends up
at some point between where we see him taking over the little girl or the old woman. We have another scene where the old woman is in, I think it was maybe an airport or something like that, and we see a little girl and her mother go into a bathroom, and then we see the old woman go in after them. And then the next time we see them, these are very, very short scenes that are kind of intercut into the movie, which I think worked pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it works.
You never really see them for more than like a minute or two at a time.
My only problem with them is that they're littered throughout the movie kind of randomly, and you at a point you just completely forget about it, and then you're like, oh shit, there's another symbiote here? What? Okay.
Yeah, so you have the little girl who in the next time we see her, her mom is getting into a car, and she just starts walking away because and we find out she has the symbiote now. And then we have a scene before Eddie gets taken by the people to God, I cannot remember his name for the life. Drake.
Drake.
He's just so forgettable.
Flake, I'm telling you, Flake.
So we have a scene where he's in the lab, and there's this little girl that we're familiar with as the audience that he is not, who comes in, and he's are you lost? What's going on? And he gets the symbiote attached to him.
Yep.
Which yet again, why?
Why?
Of course, it had to happen because he's the main villain. Of
'cause
course, we had to have the big hero fights a bigger version of themselves sort of thing.
We
at
gotta
the
have
end.
a villain.
And so that's kind of the end of that little scene. They just have an assumed attack there where she attacks him and transfers the symbiote, and that's kind of the end of that. So
then going back to the whole Eddie Brock and Flake scene where he's just like, "Where's the symbiote? I know you know where the symbiote is." He's like, I don't know where it's at. And then
then Drake loses his temper, and,
and then
the symbiote comes out of him.
reveals himself to be Riot.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like the design of Riot.
I liked the design. Yeah,
Pretty good,
I think
yeah.
it was pretty good. It was similar in ways to Venom, but it was a lot more. It was a lot more muddied.
Yeah.
And I kind of liked that idea of it. And so he gets pissed off at Eddie and reveals himself as Riot, and then goes back and he's like, all right, and this is fine. I'm going to figure this sort of thing out. And then he leaves, and then we basically have the next scene where Eddie is being led out into the woods to be killed by the guys who were chasing him earlier in the film. And then we have the scene where they're about to kill him, and the henchmen behind the main dude start getting picked off by Venom.
Picked off by She-Venom.
And of course, and then she comes up and attacks him, and I believe she eats his head.
Yeah, she eats his head as well.
Yeah, so she eats the main thug's head, and then revealed to be She-Venom, which again, it was okay.
Yeah, it was alright.
And then we see they have a kiss, and the symbiote gets transferred back to Tom Hardy, and then they just kind of leave her there. So that they're like, yeah, no, you're not coming with, and they move on.
Can't do anything.
And then she's just like, bullshit.
Yeah,
I
so
can't. And us as the audience are like, no, you can't.
Yeah. So then we have another scene which I think is a little bit rushed. Again, where after that they end up going back to the
we do get a
life research.
We do get a funny line with Venom, and I think this is what kind of makes him develop such an attachment to Eddie Brock, which is what I mentioned earlier about him
being a loser on his planet.
And, yeah. I don't know. It worked for me, but it was very much rushed.
Yeah, and of course they had to have it again to make some sort of relationship between the two. But it could have been handled better. But I'm not really surprised it wasn't, because the movie itself was not really all that great.
Yeah.
But it was done in an enjoyable way. It was funny, and I think that's the best they really could have done with this. Mm-hmm. So then we go in and we have Drake, who's trying to launch the rocket that he has there so that they can go to the comet, so that they can bring back all the other symbiotes and take over the world. Because I don't really know why he would want to do that, because his whole thing before was, I want to let people live. He's curing cancer, and he's bringing these. His whole motivation with these symbiotes is to be able to help people survive.
I guess it's like him, and I guess Riot's kind of taken over more in this situation, because he's just like, we want to take over this planet. Mm-hmm. And then fucking Flake's probably just like, oh yeah, and if you guys take over the planet, then that means we'll be able to live, and
it was
it's very messy.
Yeah,
like I didn't
so then we have we have him setting up the rocket to go off, and he ends up attacking all the people around him because he has to, because that's just the kind of character it is, where he just manifests these giant scythes and just like slices a room in half.
Yeah, he's like start rocket launching right now. And then it's like 5 minutes till launch, and then he's just like, okay, now you're all dead.
Yeah, pretty much. And so then we have the obligatory again, hero fights a bigger version of themselves as a villain's thing, where Venom is deciding that he wants to stay on Earth, and he's seen the beauty in Earth, and he wants to help protect it, so he's gonna stop,
which is fucking
Riot.
Dumb. Like, that's so rushed.
Yeah, and there's really no justifiable reason to have him change his the way he saw humanity.
I mean, you simply could have done it done it for just Eddie Brock, and it would have been fine.
Yeah, like I would have been stronger. I feel like if it had been that he developed some sort of relationship with Eddie Brock, where
Exactly.
that's who he wanted to save, and if that meant saving the rest of them, that's fine too.
Right.
Because that's much more Venom's way of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's some sort of random thing where he wants to save the human race and the planet and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So they go out and they fight on the way to the rocket. They're fighting against.
They also misuse their one fuck in the movie, because Eddie Brock's just like, is there a chance of us taking this thing out? And Venom's just like,
No, 0.
and then he's just like, well, fuck it, let's go save the world.
Yeah,
and I'm just like, well,
it's kind of a waste.
if you had the movie rated R, you could have as much as you wanted. But
So then we have them fighting on the way to the rocket, and it's a decent fight scene. Again, it's hurt a lot by both the darkness of it, where both of these characters now are very dark characters, and it's hard to see them because it's blending in with the darkness of the environment, and again, all of the powers are so ill-defined, so it's just a lot of things are happening, and you're like, I mean, I guess that can happen.
Yeah, I'd say it's like the weakest fight or action scene in the movie.
And I think a lot of that is because it's all CG. There were some really, really cool shots in it.
Yeah.
There were some, like, where the symbiotes are, like, detaching, and they're all visceral and just spread out all across the screen.
That
and
was
it's
a really cool shot,
cool.
yeah.
And you have some shots where it looks like even the people within the symbiotes are fighting each other.
Yeah.
And the symbiotes are also fighting.
I did like that. I don't know if that was in the trailer, because we see that same shot in the trailer, but I don't believe that we see them in the trailer, at least. Tom Hardy and Flake fighting each other, like, inside the symbiote, and then the symbiotes themselves fighting outside. I thought that was cool.
And then we have a weird moment where Riot absorbs Venom, and
That was weird.
that was very strange. It was
Really weird.
kind of out of nowhere, and it doesn't last more than like a few seconds, and I don't really understand the justification for doing so, but yeah, we have Riot absorbing Venom, and then we immediately have them splitting apart because, surprise, the girlfriend came and she turned on a high-pitched frequency, so
She's like, hey, I told you I could do things.
yeah, and it was just like
It's like, all right.
it was kind of dumb.
Michelle Ex Machina.
Yeah, so she shows up and she gets the symbiotes to detach themselves, and then we have a very short fight scene between the humans who were in the symbiotes, so Drake and Eddie Brock, and they're fighting, and then he kicks Drake off of the thing, and right before that we'd seen that Riot was on the side of the thing, so we have them going back together, and then Eddie's walking away, and he gets a big spike through the back.
Gets stabbed,
and
he gets shit talked by Riot.
Yeah.
All like, you're
Nothing.
Yeah, and I will say, obviously Eddie Brock's not going to die, of course, and you know that, and it takes away a little bit from the effect that they're trying to have. However, unlike in a lot of movies that I would have expected to see, they linger on it quite a bit. They let it sit for a while. They let it sit with the "you are nothing" and Eddie Brock dead on the ground. And I liked how long they let that wait.
I did too. I liked how I honestly thought that was another kind of sweet moment between Venom and Eddie Brock, because Venom just kind of like slowly goes towards Eddie Brock to get inside of him. It's like they're kind of both, I guess, injured and dead in a sense, but I don't know. I liked it. It was a good moment.
I liked how long they lingered on the quote-unquote possibility of him being dead and then bring him back. And I think most movies would have done it too quick, and I think it wouldn't have had any impact. It was like, oh yeah, remember how he died? Oh, he died? Oh, right, yeah, he did. It was for that split second, and then Venom came back, and But I liked the way that they allowed it to linger.
Yeah.
And then we have Riot climbing up the rocket.
Yep.
And then we have Venom refusing with Eddie Brock, and the rocket's taking off, and Venom's jumping on the side of it, and then he has this moment with Riot where Riot's just, I guess, surprised that he's back there, and he calls him a traitor, and then Venom says "Have a nice life," which is a line that's happened like 3 or 4 times throughout the movie, and then he rips down the side of the rocket and exposes Riot to the only other weakness that we've been told about through the movie, which is fire that they have. So the rocket explodes, and we have Venom and Eddie who are falling, and it looks like Venom's kind of getting burned up, and he says goodbye to Eddie, and then he opens up like a parachute to help Eddie survive, and then we find out later that he didn't die, which
does not make sense.
I'm glad I'm not alone there.
It doesn't make sense. Like, I'm just
like, if they hadn't had the line where he says goodbye to Eddie, I could buy it.
Right.
But because they went that step and they had him specifically say goodbye as if he was about to die, it doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work. Like,
and
it's the thing in the movie where I was just like
obviously
what?
they're not going to kill Venom
Yeah.
because they want sequels. That's the only reason they did this, is because Sony is
franchise setup.
desperate to have their own franchise.
Yep.
And obviously they're not going to kill him, but why
have that line in there?
Because they handle the quote-unquote death of Eddie Brock very well, and then they do the same sort of thing with Venom, and they completely screw it up.
Yeah, and then we find out that Eddie Brock and Michelle Williams are together but not together kind of thing. I don't know. It's fucking dumb.
Yeah, it cuts to, I don't even know how much further in the future it was.
I have
It wasn't.
idea.
I don't think it's particularly long. I don't know if it says here. No, it just cuts to the future, and they're sitting on. He and Michelle Williams are sitting down and talking, and she says something along the lines of "Sorry about Venom," which I thought was a dumb line.
Yeah, that was dumb.
I don't
what?
really see any reason why she would have identified with Venom. I guess she did fuse with him at some point, which I guess can sort of, but it didn't. She never really acted like she gave a shit about Venom.
Nope.
And having somebody say a line like that makes it very apparent how dumb it is for a line like that to exist.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Yeah, and then we have the Venom voice saying, "Oh, and she thinks we're dead, and ha ha ha, but little does she know we're still here."
We're still together.
I mean, yeah, obviously they're still together at the end. They have to be because they want sequels and that sort of thing. And then we have the conversation with the two of them as they're walking away about how if you're going to be here, you're only going to hurt bad people, which was a part of the trailer, which they used in a very, very different way in the trailer to make it look like that was kind of in the beginning of the movie, or like near at the very least, at the very most in the middle of the movie. But this is at the very, very end of the movie where he's talking about how if you're going to be here, you're going to only hurt bad people and that sort of thing. And then we go back to the shop that he had been in earlier in the movie, where he was friends with the shopkeeper who apparently had some sort of debt to somebody which is never really explained.
No.
And we'd seen somebody earlier come in who was trying to collect that debt and was holding her at gunpoint, and there was really nothing he could do because he didn't have Venom at that point. And so again, he goes in and she's talking to her, and then he's going to get something to eat, and the guy comes in again, and Venom is like, is that a bad person? He's like, that's a bad guy. So he goes over and he threatens him, which I liked because it showed that he had kind of learned to think and actually change that. And then instead of actually following through with that, he actually just eats the dude. Yeah. Which I liked. I thought it was funny, but at the same time, it kind of undercut the whole speech they had before about how, and then the change that they had in Venom where he was threatening the dude instead of just immediately ripping him in half.
Yep.
And then we have and then we just have him walking down the road again, and he's saying, so what do you want to do next? And Venom says,
"The way I see it, we can do whatever we want."
Which is, again, a line that they had in the trailer, which was it seemed like it was in a very different context, and I don't really think it works in this context.
Yeah, the one line that I wish that they had in the movie that they cut, like, or that they had in the movie that was in the trailer but they cut, was when Tom Hardy's like, "I have been taken." I don't know. I just like the way he delivers that line.
Yeah.
But this scene in particular pisses me off more than anything. It's not because of the scene itself. It's because Sony, stop putting the last shot of your movies in the trailers. We don't appreciate it. We don't like it. Why are you doing this?
Yeah,
I don't get it.
It took away from that line, knowing that I'd already heard it, and knowing that the way that they used it in the trailer made no sense to how it was actually used in the movie.
So stop doing it.
And I don't even think the line makes sense in that scene that they have it in there. I think that was a line that they wanted in the trailer, and they had to find a way to put it in the movie. And that's kind of where they ended up putting it. And it ends the movie on a slightly sour note.
We all literally predicted that last shot of that trailer of Venom straight up biting that dude's head off would be the last shot of the film, and it more or less is.
Yeah.
So, my God.
Yeah, it's not the greatest ending, not the strongest ending, and then we have the mid credit scene, and we have basically they're expanding on the agreement between Venom and Eddie Brock that they're going to live together, but they're not going to infringe on. He's not going to infringe on Eddie's life, and they're going to do the right thing, sort of thing. So he's going back to journalism, I think, and he's going to interview a serial killer. And so we go in there, and we've got the serial killer writing on the cell, and it's very, very like ominous, and it's just
it gave me a little bit of the chills.
And then he looks up, and we have Woody Harrelson as Cletus Cassidy. And I mean, going in, I think everyone kind of knew that.
Right.
It had been at least rumored, I think possibly even announced, that Woody Harrelson would be playing Carnage, and he has a very heavy-handed line of, "When I get out, there will be carnage."
There will be carnage. And I'm just like, a little bit on the nose.
A little bit.
But whatever.
But yeah, I went into this not wanting to like this movie, and the very last thing I expected was to be excited for a sequel for it.
I know.
And yet, seeing Woody Harrelson and seeing the performance that Tom Hardy gave in this movie as Venom and as Eddie Brock, and then just imagine him alongside Woody Harrelson in a sequel as Carnage.
That'd be insanity.
I'm actually excited for a sequel, which I didn't want to be.
I know. I thought, okay, like I said before, I went into this movie with the lowest of expectations you could have, and I came out excited for a sequel.
Yeah, and
I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, and that happened to both of us. We both went in with the absolute lowest possible expectations, and we both came away pleasantly surprised and excited for the future, which I don't know how they did it.
Don't know.
And I don't think Sony did. I think it was 100% Tom Hardy, because everything else about this movie shouldn't work, and it doesn't work. And then you add Tom Hardy, and somehow it pulls itself together, and it works
with some clever writing here.
Yeah, and it makes it worth seeing, which I didn't think it would be.
I never thought I'd say that this movie would be like worth seeing, but yeah, go out and see it. It is dumb in a lot of parts, but I'm telling you, like, Tom Hardy as Eddie Brock and Venom will change your outlook on the film entirely.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see just how much of a movie can fail and still have it work with how little of it actually does. Because you have so much of this that shouldn't work. You have the plot that's either, I can't even decide if it's overcomplicated or undercomplicated, and it just doesn't explain itself well, and there's really not a whole lot going on. And
if you just look at this movie as set up for Lethal Protector and just set up for Venom as a whole, I think you'll walk out of it satisfied.
Yeah, and I think the best thing that they could possibly do going forward is just to focus as much as possible on Eddie and Venom, and
Yeah.
keep it at that, because any
Just-
sort
yeah.
of side characters that you're trying to set up,
It doesn't work.
it doesn't work. They don't work alongside this character, because this character, so much of this is internal between Eddie Brock and the symbiote. There's so much that takes place between those two that everything else almost feels like it's trying to cut in on that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work.
Yeah. So that was Venom.
That was Venom.
It was an okay. It wasn't bad. It wasn't good particularly. It was okay.
Yeah.
It was I would see it again. If they like come out with an R-rated cut with,
I would be happy to see it.
I would be happy to see. I would buy that shit because I mean, fuck, people were making such a big deal about the BVS R-rated cut, and I wasn't having any of that when that shit came out.
Yeah.
But
A couple things that I took notes on that I didn't mention. There was the when he goes in to see to try and talk to his old boss, and he talks with the security guard. The security guard's not letting him in, and right as they're about to leave, Venom says,
Let's eat his brains.
oh yeah,
and he's like, no, we're not gonna do that. And that was a great way to end that scene. There's just so much of the good parts of this movie are just the dialogue from just Tom Hardy alone.
Yeah.
Because everything else just feels like it's taking away from more of that we could have. And that's why it's so hard to think back. Even having just seen this movie, it's hard to think back about the plot. It's hard to think back about specific characters that aren't them, because I don't even know. I can't even think of the names of most of these characters. I can't even. We couldn't even keep straight the order in which things happen, because
Right.
it doesn't matter.
No.
And that's the biggest thing, is it doesn't matter. And nothing in this movie matters except for Tom Hardy.
Right. Yeah, this is just set up, folks. I mean, if you like Venom in this movie, then let's hope to God that we get more of it in sequels, and we get only him.
Yeah. And I'm more than willing to see what Woody Harrelson can do with Carnage.
I think Woody Harrelson's gonna kill it.
He is somebody who can take a character like Carnage, and he can help it to stand up alongside Venom and not get overshadowed or take away from what Venom has.
Okay, all I want for Christmas is an R-rated movie with Tom Hardy as Venom and Woody Harrelson as Carnage. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, just do that, Sony, and we will watch it. I promise, we will watch it, and we will love it. Just do it.
Yeah. All right. So, plot-wise, didn't like it.
No.
Music-wise,
Pretty good.
sound design-wise, it was pretty decent. I there was a Wilhelm scream,
Yeah, well,
which felt very out of place.
it was so out of place.
It's Venom tearing through
The SWAT
team guys, and he throws one of them off a building, and it's just
Yeah.
like, oh, come on.
Oh wow! Why did you do that?
Yeah, it's it was just charming. The sound design was just charming. As far as the special effects, I thought they were very, very good.
Yeah.
I think there were very few parts that I thought didn't work. I guess the spaceship in the beginning was a little iffy.
Yeah.
The scenes where it was part of Tom Hardy's face changing into Venom, but not if it was partially his face and partially Venom.
Yeah.
It looked a little off in parts. If it was other body parts, it flowed pretty well. I felt like. Overall, I think the special effects held up very well, and I think a lot of that again was helped by the fact that so much of this takes place in the dark.
Yeah.
And I'm curious how well it would have looked if they had some more scenes that were not in the dark. Because I would like to see what they could have done with that. And I'm hoping that's something that I would like to see possibly more of in a sequel, is just to get to see more of that without the cover of darkness.
Yeah, and I'm sure that hopefully we'll get something like that.
Yeah.
Or at least, mess with the contrast or something, man. Like, come on, we want to see Venom.
Yeah, and finally with the acting, again, it's all Tom Hardy.
All Tom Hardy.
And pretty much anyone else.
No other performances in this movie stick out
Yeah.
whatsoever.
That's pretty much it. It's just Tom Hardy, and if you enjoy Tom Hardy, you will enjoy
Yeah.
this movie. You may not think it's a great movie. We didn't. But you will enjoy it. You'll have a good time.
There's
at
no
this
way.
movie.
There's no way that you can't enjoy this movie because the intentional funny parts are funny, and the non-intentional parts in which are dumb are still funny.
Yeah,
like
it is.
It's hilarious.
It is a riot to watch this movie. No pun intended. All right. Yeah.
right.
So that is Venom 2018.
Yep.
All right, and I guess once again, I would suggest that you see this movie. Maybe not in theaters, but certainly at some point.
Yeah. Definitely worth a watch.
Yeah, and I guess that is going to be the end of our thoughts on Venom.
Yeah. If you guys have any other suggestions, let us know, and we will get right on it.
Yeah, and coming up soon, we have our review of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets.
Oh, God, I'm excited for that one.
All right, so we will see you guys next time.
All right. Bye-bye.